So I first saw Alisa in one of the silent groups that I'm in. There was a post talking about it with a screenshot, and since I'm a huge fan of old school survival horror, I went ahead and looked it up on Steam. I loved what I saw, so I picked it up. I love the old school looking FMV videos that the game opens up with, and from the first battle I was hooked. The game does a great job of keeping that old school survival horror game, but it feels just modern enough to appeal to gamers who weren't born in the late 80s like me. This will be a spoiler review, so if you want to play the game first, but you want to know if it's worth the $18 on Steam, yes, 100% worth it. The game has a lot of different enemies and lots of different unlockables with great boss battles. It has new game plus mode as well, which is worth going back and playing because it has multiple endings, and then you also get to try out those weapons that you may have grabbed at the very end. It gives you a chance to unlock new weapons. The game is not as scary as like Silent Hill, but it is on the same level and tension and scares as like other survival horror games from the PS1 days. So go ahead and leave a like and come back after you beaten it. I would love to hear your thoughts and your comments. For everyone else, let's go ahead and jump into the game review. What's a survival horror game without cool weapons? Of course, ammo is in short supply. The monsters are not bullet sponges like the zombies in the first Resident Evil game though. All the guns sound well, and they're balanced well for the most part. The melee really shines in this game for me. I never felt frustrated when I was attacking in the game. The controls seem very responsive when it comes to combat. Also, getting tooth wheels for killing monsters is an excellent motivator to fight instead of run. The UI is clean and simple. You see your life bar as well as the gun and ammo when you're clicking left to aim. A nice little addition is the crosshairs. You'll see this little crosshair icon that will light up when you're aiming at a monster and you actually have a shot. Gives you a bit of an edge when the camera angle is blocking your view. You can also only carry 2 weapons at a time, as well as only 1 dress. This forces you to plan out your next move, and it's a nice callback to Resident Evil with a limited inventory. Like Resident Evil, you have a dresser called Charlotte. This houses all your weapons and dresses, much like the item chest from Resident Evil. Let's talk about the firearms. You won't find them like you would in Silent Hill or Resident Evil. Instead, you unlock them from the shopkeeper puppet named Pole. More weapons unlocked as you progress through the game. You also get to pick one each weapon from a boss you defeat. During my first playthrough, I didn't use the firearms much, so I only had an experience with the pistol, the blunderbuss, the rifle, and the Tommy gun. There are far more to unlock, such as like the hand revolver, shotgun, dual pistols, and name a few. The normal pistol you get is a standard 9mm handgun. It's got 9 shots. It does okay damage and ammo is cheap, and the range is pretty good for some basic monsters. I found myself using it as a way to drop bosses' health from a distance. The blunderbuss is a powerful but only 1 shot, getting a really slow to reload shotgun. Even with the military dress, it was still pretty slow, but it worked well for the first boss. It's kind of useless after that, unless you never upgrade to the shotgun, but you know, I didn't. Then you got the Tommy gun. I actually really love this gun. I'm happy that the devs went with the straight magazine instead of like the drum magazine. The damage is pretty good. You can shoot through ammo since it's a full auto rifle. I suggest like a 3-round burst or single firing to save ammo and keep your accuracy up. I use it mostly for boss battles. And then you have the rifle, and the rifle is amazing. It's got amazing damage and range. It only comes with 2 shots at a time though, and it takes a bit to reload. I use it for the final boss fight though, to shoot through his life. I really like the melee combat in this game. If you time your hits right, you can keep stunning most monsters and stopping them from ever getting a hit in. This also saves ammo for boss battles. Melee combat also brought some excitement to the game with some monsters that were not affected by the stun, so you would have to hit them and then run. You can also block most attacks, and if timed right, you get a parry, which is a nice addition to the game. I didn't unlock the wrist blades of the bear trap in my playthrough though. The saber though is probably the best weapon in the game. While the damage may not be super good, it's really easy to use and it's very effective. I used it to kill 3 monsters at the start of the game and found myself using it till I got the sword and shield. The javelin is probably my favorite melee weapon in the game. While it's not as effective at short range like the saber, you can throw it, which combined with the saber pistol makes for great combos. I love throwing weapons at monsters and running up and grabbing it again, then getting a few quick jabs in before stepping back to throw it again. It never breaks either, and it automatically appears back in your inventory when you leave the room. I used this also for the final boss battle since I was low on ammo, and it did good damage, and I could also throw it and then run and grab it again and throw it. So like I said, it's not like the best melee weapon, but when used in a great combo, I think it was probably one of my favorites to use. Then you have Ed's hammer. This weapon was a bit of a letdown. The pushback can help against multiple enemies, and it's a pretty fast weapon, but the damage isn't great, so the hammer ends up not being worth it in my opinion. It was still a fun weapon to play around with, and you know, maybe in later playthroughs, you know, maybe doing like a Ed hammer only run or something could be fun. And then you have the sword and shield. The advantage of this weapon is that the shield allows you to block, but you can't counter as fast as you would with the saber. And the damage is about the same, so it's better to stick with the saber. I do admit it looks cool though, running through around with the sword and shield. I also like the way the shield looked on your back when it's not equipped. So in this game you have dresses for Alisa, and they act as armor, and they also give different bonuses as well. I haven't unlocked all the dresses yet, so I'm only be talking about the ones that I used in my playthrough. So you have naked, of course. It's not actually naked, but it shows off all her curves. It lets you swim fast, and that's about it. There's no defense, but you could save some tube wheels by not buying the fish dress and just stripping down to your undies and for the water section of the game. Then you have the doll dress. It's the dress that you start out with. Looks like Alice in Wonderland in my opinion. It will reduce enemy aggro, which will help you at the start since you'll have no real weapons. Other than that, it doesn't do much. Then you got your army dress. This is the same dress that you see Alisa wearing in the prologue. It has okay defense stats and also reduces reload time, which is really nice. And it's great against bosses. I actually found myself using it the majority of the game. And then you have the fish dress. So this dress helps you swim fast. It provides a bit of protection. Honestly, it's not really needed in the first playthrough, as you can just swim really fast with no dress on. I grabbed it for the first playthrough, and I'm gonna admit Alisa does look hot in it, so there's that. Then there's your thief dress. This dress actually has some real armor. It gives you a 40% defense bonus, which is great. She also looks badass in it. Definitely grab it as soon as you can. And then you have the orange nurse dress. It gives you a healing bonus. It's nice, but I'd rather have the 40% defense boost. Grab it if you're going for the achievement. Then you have the straight jacket. This one's really strange and fun. The first time I grabbed it, I thought it was a trap, to be honest. It's a bit tricky to use, but it can be very effective. You'll have high defense, but you can't carry any weapons, so instead you have this charging attack with limited steering. You can keep going until you hit a wall or stop it yourself. The damage isn't great, but most enemies can't deal with the speed increase you get, so to use it you just start charging away, run into them, and then they'll be attacking thin air while you're long gone. Getting the leg you need for the doll on the basement wave challenge is really easy with this dress. With some practice, you can also kill both huge dancers without taking any damage that you find later on in the game. It also messes with some cutscenes for an extra laugh. Other than that though, I didn't really find it super super reasonable to use, but it was fun and definitely worth getting for the achievement. There's also the master dress. You get this after beating the game. I actually didn't really like the way this dress looked, and it starts kind of lame, but with each upgrade you get, it increases defense, so it maxed out at 80. It'd pretty much be a tank after that, but like I said, I didn't really like the way this dress looked, so I didn't bother using it after during my second playthrough. Sock puzzles. Being a survival horror game, of course there's going to be puzzles. The puzzles in this game were fun. The first one with the sliding box maze requires you to move the pieces around until you open up the path for the key to slide out. The second one involved cogs being placed in the correct order so you could retrieve a key from the doll's mouth. All the puzzles were great. None of them were Silent Hill 3 level hard, but they're still great and engaging. When it comes to level design, I really liked it in this game. Each area feels like its own world and is very unique from the other sections of the mansion. The main hall of the mansion feels like the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil 1. The metal hedge had me on edge as you never knew it would be around the next turn, as well as having to press each lever to unlock certain parts of the game while locking others out. It was really great. I liked it a lot. The funhouse had this funny circus feel to it. I really enjoyed the star room in the funhouse. You know, the water level below felt very comforting and had amazing music, even though the creatures in it were not very nice. Just enjoyed exploring them all. Never felt like I was dragging or having to backtrack through some of them that much. The chapel level was very pretty, but also a very uneasy feeling, especially at the end of the game when you come back to it and it's all lit up red. I also liked that the keys you come across could open multiple doors in multiple areas. This means that it wasn't necessarily a linear path to follow in terms of which area to explore after about the first 20 minutes of the game. I found myself defeating bosses in the maze before fighting the one in the underground level, which appeared to be different from other players according to Steam discussions. I definitely give their level design an A+. I really liked it a lot, and it definitely was just really nice. The music in this game is actually really nice. Well, each area has its own track, as well as each boss had its own unique tracks. Save music room was warm and lovely track like Resident Evil save room music. You know, the tracks were very diverse as well. In the funhouse, you get like this very circus style track, while in the underwater levels, a very calming tune. I also really liked the end credits song a lot. You know, for an indie game, the music was very top notch, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing, you know, how the music upgrades and changes through the next projects. The monster design in this game was really good as well. The theme for the game is pretty much dolls, which are creepy, of course. Each monster has its own theme, but the designs of them were all great. They all still had like this doll-like to them. Every monster is unique and it fits the theme of its area you would find them in. You know, you have your basic porcelain dolls, which don't pose much of a threat, but this tearing them wind up as they're coming towards you is kind of creepy. The crawling dolls, they're a bit tricky. I mean, they're only 1 or 2 hits, but they do a nice like jump attack, and they're very fast, so they can cause damage pretty quick. I really like the steel sunflower and rose monsters in the steel garden. Those were like really cool. Like the steel sunflowers were just like this very tall, like muscular looking monster. Not much of a danger because, you know, they only struck at you from a short distance, but the rose ones were actually very dangerous because they were able to throw like these steel like spines at you. That was really cool. I liked them a lot, especially when you bring them together. It made for some unique gameplay. You know, overall each monster had its unique design and attacks, and the sound of each monster was spot on as well. I really did like them a lot. And I really liked the boss fights in this game as well. Each one had their own set of attacks and required a different approach. You know, for example, Pure, he's in this machine that has mallets and punching bags. He's attempting to hit you while the room spins. And if you try just to sit on the outside of the room, they have doll hands that grab you. Now, the doll hands don't do any damage, but they hold you in place for a certain amount of time until you struggle. So you could get hit by one of them when you didn't even think about it. Edith comes flying at you while throwing her hydrant. And throwing fish at you. That was pretty cool. Isabella is fast and can launch ground spikes at you. That was actually really cool. I liked that a lot. She also has 2 steel sunflower monsters chasing you while fighting her. Then you have the doll monster. He was a pretty basic fight. He's pretty scary looking and he does a lot of damage quickly. And he also has a ton of life. So that was not a super easy fight during the first run of the game. My favorite boss fight though, and I think the most unique, would have to be Alvarez. He has these wings and he shoots arrows at you. You're chasing him on the Chapel Guardian and you're shooting at him while dodging his attacks. I had a lot of fun with this boss battle and it was actually kind of out of the blue. I didn't expect this in the game. And this one probably took me the most tries. Overall, the bosses are great and I never found myself bored fighting them. And I also liked their design of them. It was just very unique and, you know, once again, A+ design on the bosses. So the controls. Alisa handles very well. I never found myself frustrated with the controls at all. The quick turn is great. Aiming is fine. It's nice that you can also aim up and down. You can also start with auto aim, but you don't receive as many tooth wheels for killing monsters if you have it on. So I wouldn't suggest doing that because you can always upgrade later, which I definitely recommend that part. It also makes running away and then auto snapping to the enemy very fluid. This comes in great for using like the saber, hit, run, auto aim, hit, and swing again. You know, very good. And like I said, not having it on is not the end of the world, so it's worth getting that extra tooth wheels for killing monsters and having it off and then just upgrading it later. Plus, once you upgrade, right, when you're new game plus, you'll always have it on. So I definitely suggest not using auto aim and then just upgrading it later. So for the story, I'm not going to go into full detail like every inch of the story. I do want you guys to play it and want you to be, you know, surprised. But I will let you know that it was very interesting, and you know, there's enough mystery around it to keep you wanting to find more information and keep you pushing on. You know, this isn't going to be like the level of Silent Hill 2 when it comes to storytelling, but it was still very coherent. I didn't really find any plot holes in it. There are multiple endings, which is nice, gives you a reason to play it again. And all the characters were very fun to interact with. The beginning of the story pretty much starts out is that as Alisa, you're chasing the spy, and you end up in this forest. You fall down into this crater, and all of a sudden these monsters attack you. Even if you kill them, you end up getting captured. You wake up in this room wearing a strange dress. After exploring the main hall of the mansion, you end up into this room and you find this puppet named Poe. He ends up helping you with items and other goods, and after that you end up running off around the mansion. There are, you know, 4 different areas, 4 different bosses you learn about, and then at the very end, of course, you do face the Doll Master. Overall, though, I'm not going to go into much detail besides that. I do want you guys to play it. I just do think that it is worth playing for the story. The game does have a lot of replayability based on the weapons you can unlock and stuff like that, but the story was good, and the multiple endings are definitely worth getting. I did get the Forgotten Time ending, or ending B. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but ending B was the one I got, and so I'm working on getting ending A and C in my next playthroughs. But overall, the story was definitely interesting. I had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun with the characters and the boss battles, and overall the game was just, you know, it was great. It was definitely a nice callback to the old survival horror, and I'm really excited to see, you know, what the developers do with their next projects. I'm not sure if they're going to make a sequel to this game, if they're just going to make something new, but I have, you know, full faith in them that the next game they make will be great as well, because like I said, this game was a lot of fun, and at $18 it's a steal, especially with some of the new dresses that they came out with for the game. It's definitely worth it, and I definitely suggest playing this game 100%.